So thank you, Andre, for joining us. I really appreciate your time. We are talking on the first question on conceptual leadership. So just before that, can you just tell us about your organization and your vision about your organization, please?
Yeah, so we're a Dutch company. We design and build process packages for the oil and gas industry.
Okay, gas industry. So, Andre, what have been your challenges that you face as a leader of this company?
Oh, how much time do you have? No, I've spent now almost 7 years in this particular organization, which is a part of the overall Dutch global organization, and we fulfill a very specific role within the overall organization. And our challenge has been to convince ourselves and convince the parent organization that we can do a lot more from this office than we were doing 7 years back. I think that's the summary of all of the challenges that we faced. And
yeah, it makes sense actually. It is very difficult at times to convince your top manager that there is a lot of scope of business at this particular place.
It's not just the top managers, it's also the entire organization, and so the peers with whom our people here are working together, and it actually also takes convincing the people within the organization here that they can do a lot more than what they are asked to do.
Yeah. And I think so that brings up upon the topic that we're discussing. We have a project on conceptual leadership, and as we go through details, we find that you have been a good conceptual leader for this company. How much do you think a leader needs to be a conceptual thinker?
Oh, to a great, well, let me put it this way, it depends a lot on the people that are there already in your organization, or the people that you recruit, and their level of maturity. If you are lucky enough, like I was, to join an organization where the people that are already there have a certain level of maturity and can understand the vision that you are trying to explain to them, even though they may have doubts about whether it is feasible or not. But if that is the case, then you actually have the liberty to be a conceptual leader, and then it is also required. So if your organization is less mature, and if the people in your organization are less mature, you need to be more task oriented, and you need to more on a short term make sure certain tasks get done. But and that might be the start of when you are really in a developing organization, that might be the way you have to start out. But if you want people to start taking some of the responsibilities from your shoulders onto their own, then you need to start applying conceptual leadership, and that's when they start taking their own initiatives. And actually, unless you can then transfer to conceptual leadership, you don't give them the space to do that.
Yes. We talked a lot about the technical skill and the human skill, and then the conceptual skills. So that's where I think so you can stand as a conceptual thinkers, and while the other members who are matured enough can work on the human skills and technical skills.
Correct. And as a leader, you are in a very privileged position, especially I think in my specific case, where this organization, as I mentioned, is a part of a much larger organization, and that larger context is better known to me than to anyone else.
That's right.
And that gives you a great advantage of having all this knowledge, and you need to translate that into concepts that people can work according to.
Yes,
Yeah.
transfer of concepts. That's the right word that we are seeking. Can you give us some example how conceptual leadership has helped you to achieve some result in the organization?
I'm not 100% sure if this is the type of example you're looking for, but a few years back we were organized as it's actually a project management concept.
Yes.
Within project management you have the so-called matrix organization,
Yes.
where you have project managers as well as department heads, and they share a responsibility for the people and the work to be done. And within matrix organizations you can have
Interlinking of departments.
now you would have three flavors, so-called weak matrix, matrix, and strong matrix.
Okay.
And we were a so-called weak matrix, where our project managers were only project administrators, maintaining the schedule and maintaining the document flows and things like that. But they did not really have any authority over the resources and the work that gets done, because that was with the department heads. Strong matrix is the opposite, where your department heads are looking after long-term developments of certain departments and their skills, but the project managers really get the authority over the type of work and in which order the tasks get done. And we made this transition because when we were a weak matrix organization, we saw that a project is teamwork, and the teamwork was taking place over too many layers. So you have a certain situation and you see that it's not matching, it's not getting the best possible result that you want. It's not meeting the requirements that you have. So then you find out what would be a better way of organizing this, and in this case it was by emphasizing the role of the project rather than the role of the department, where we say, if somebody comes up to me and introduces himself, he should be saying, hello, my name is Amit and I'm working on this project, rather than, hello, my name is Amit and I'm a piping designer or a piping engineer. And that's what we try to establish in that way, by putting the project first, making sure the project manager has the authority to directly control all the resources that are working within his project. And that concept of a better way of achieving project success is what we implemented.
Splendid. I think so. It was more than an example for concept transition from a weak matrix to a strong matrix, and giving ahead more importance to project than actual departments. That's a big concept. Thank you, Andrea, a lot. So, what would you suggest? Finally, this is my final question. What would you suggest us as student managers? Okay, and of course we are studying leadership. So, what do you think? How can we develop conceptual skills? What should you? What kind of thing that you would suggest?
Well, take your time.
Yeah.
There is hardly ever a decision that needs to be taken in a day or in a week. Make sure that you have sufficient information and sufficient inputs from everybody, so that you really thoroughly understand the situation. So this can be, and I like to get everybody's opinion, but also like to get everybody's genuine information. So as far as measurements go, you try to collect the measurements that are there. They may not always be perfect, but you can interpret them to that extent, and you can, as long as you understand that every measurement is an approximation of the reality, you can interpret them in that way. And take your time. This helps you to take the better decision, and it also, by getting everybody's input, it helps create a buy-in. Sudden decisions are rarely received well. Whereas if you start a thinking process a month ahead of that decision, simply by asking people for information, that helps already to generate some platform to make the decision work. And then the most valuable thing, and I'm not sure if this is conceptual leadership, but it's just a very important life lesson, is that a good decision is trying to achieve the best possible outcome. But you have to make a distinction between the decision and the outcome. You try to make a decision that, let's say you buy a lottery ticket. Not sure if that's legal in India.
It is.
Okay.
Still.
So let's say you buy a lottery ticket. At that time you have a certain idea that buying this lottery ticket is a good idea. Then the next week you have the outcome and you haven't won anything. Does that make the decision bad or good? It's the outcome that is bad. If with the same decision the next week you would have won 5 lakh of rupees, then you would have said, oh, this was a brilliant decision. No, the decision is the same because all the information you had at the time of the decision is the same. So you have to make a distinction between the outcome and the decision. And the decision is there to maximize the chance of a good outcome. And that the only way that you can do that is by making sure that you have sufficient data to take that decision.
So separate decision and outcome. I think so. It's a brilliant concept. And thanks, Andre, for joining us and giving your time for this project of ours on conceptual leadership. Me and Geeta and on behalf of all our team, we really thank you and for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.